The issue is the issues of recidivism, and we're talking to Pastor Walker about some of the issues that are generally associated with recidivism, especially supervision and the parole system. And of course, Reverend Walker, we promised that we'd give you an opportunity to continue to talk about the issue of supervision and the parole system. Let's do that now.
Well, Dr. Haney, what I'm saying in no uncertain term is that the Tennessee Department of Probation and Parole is contributing to the recidivism rate as well as the individual, the offenders themselves. I mean, because if you got a structured program like the Hands of God Recovery Ministries that's designed and structured, and then you're writing to that program and you're telling them, we're going to take you off of our approved list because you have a structure, because you're helping these people, because you're helping them get their idea, you're helping them get their lives together, but because you got this fine system in place, you know, then you're not helping the people. It's not in their best interest. So, you know, this thing went on, Dr. Haney. This started in March of 2006. And it went on, and I talked to Gary Tulloch on the phone, who's the Director of Field Services, and we discussed the issue about the fines. So he came to me, he said, well, okay, can you make some adjustments in the fines? I said, I'll tell you what, whatever adjustments you make into the fines, I'm okay with it, because my main thing is to help these people. So he made the adjustments. I sent him back a letter of acceptance. He said, once you do that, then we'll reinstate your program. I sent the letter back. I'm okay with it, but because I maintain my position that, you know, the fine system is not detrimental, then I get a letter back probably about a month or so later that says, you know, well, we've determined to not use your program because some of the officers feel like you have a low success rate. Now, how could they make that statement, Dr. Haney, when you consider that not one parole officer, I'm not going to say that, one parole officer, Cheryl Pullen, came out to the house one time to check on an offender, and all the other time, years or so that I've been dealing with.
They're supposed to come by periodically?
I mean, I would think they would come by and you know, make sure that the person is staying in the house they say they're staying in, or working at the job they say they're working in. But my thing was this, Dr. Haney. Listen, I called to try to open up a line of communication between my agency and the Department of Probation and Parole, but on every attempt, I was rejected. Betty also rejected me. Gary Tulloch rejected me. I mean, because I said, let's sit down with the parole officers and myself. Let me present my ministry program to you all, and let us come up with a system whereas we can work together so we can adequately and properly supervise the ex-offenders so that they'll have a chance at living life. Because if you don't do that, man, they're not going to have a chance at living life. But I was rejected on every hand, and to tell me that you got a low success rate when you've never been to my ministry office, you've never been to one of my houses where the offenders stay, you never sit in on any of my groups, you never had a conversation with me, a decent conversation with me. So how could you make a statement like that?
What do they base that such a statement on?
On nothing, Dr. Haney. What can you? I mean, what can they base it on? You never been there. I mean, you couldn't even tell me what my. I mean, they wouldn't even know how my office looked. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody's ever been there.
Well, this whole issue of fines, exactly what I mean. What are we talking about here? I mean,
safe.
I mean, is there a amount associated with these? I mean,
absolutely. Say for instance, my houses are non-smoking houses.
Okay.
So I say, as a deterrent to smoking in my house, then if you light up a cigarette in here, you're going to pay a $100 fine. Now, that's a great deterrent, because I'm not willing to pay $100 to smoke a cigarette. So chances are you're going to think about that. You're going to walk outside.
That's right.
See, the fines are not designed to be collected. The fines are designed to make sure you follow the guidelines. You know what I'm saying? I could care less about receiving a fine, you know, and they couldn't say it's about, you know, all you want is to make money off these people. If that was the case, I would do like a bunch of these other so-called halfway houses and charge them this large amount of money to come out. But we was bringing people out free at no cost. Well, we lost a lot of money doing that, of course, but still at the same time, we were trying to give people an opportunity, because people coming out of prison, they ain't got no money, man. You know what I'm saying? They don't have money, they don't have clothes, dropped off at the bus station with a shirt on in the middle of winter or whatever, you know, so it couldn't have been about the money, because it's not about finding people for money. But you think about it, Commissioner Little out there at the Tennessee Department of Correction, he's have eliminated smoking in all the prison systems, you know, and that includes the correctional officers as well. Now, what would you think would happen if a correctional officer walked in there smoking a cigarette? he's going to get a fine, he's going to get terminated, he's going to get suspended.
Okay,
There's going to be some repercussions.
Yes,
So if that can be happening right there, then what's so wrong with it happening in my recovery ministry program, other than the fact that here's a guy that has a complaint about your lack of supervision, so we need to get rid of the loudmouth. We got to get rid of him. Let's get him out of the way, because he's a problem, he's a troublemaker, and we're not going to deal with him. We're not going to do business with him, although he's got a program that's definitely designed to help people. And they know it's going to help people, because how can you not help people when you've got the structure in place that's designed to help people? But then again, you got a system that's supposed to be designed to help people and ensure the safety of the community, and then they're not functioning. You know, you got the Department of Corrections that goes through the process of trying to rehabilitate these people. You got the parole board that hear the cases and parole these people into society, and then you got the parole supervision system then that's failing right there in that area. You know what I'm saying? And that area, the vehicle is not running on all cylinders.
Well, it seems to me that, and as you're indicating, that one of the real issues dealing with the whole system is supervision.
It's a whole.
Individuals have some idea about what these individuals who've been paroled or whatnot, who are at these houses, have some idea of what they're doing.
Right. They don't. I mean, a lot of them don't have a clue. Dr. Haney, even with this sex offender registry thing, man, I put up a sex offender. He had used my address at my house, my residence, to say that's where he lived. And I called down there, and it's still listed on there. So I mean, they're not supervising the people like they should. And then when the people recommit these crimes, then they want to shift the focus just on the individual. But then you got to look at yourself. Let's go in-house with this thing. What are you doing in-house to make a difference? I mean, are you really supervising these people, or are they just popping up in your office saying they're working here or saying they live in there? Because I got another offender that came out, supposed to have been in my program, was never in my program. Now, then when he stopped showing up for the groups lying about being in my program, then the parole officer finally calls, and I'm like, hey, he's never been here. Never been here. And this, what, 3, 4, 5 months done passed.
Well, look, and this whole issue of supervision, has it anything to do with the number of personnel that might be required? But what, anything, even an increase in personnel would be cost effective if you kept people from going back into the system.
You know, one of the things is, okay, you can go with personnel, but one of the things they say in the mission statement is to do it with least cost, you know, as possible. So if you got programs out here, then if they're structured, then and the ones that are not structured, require them to structure themselves a little bit more, and then communicate. Communicate with the program that these individuals are paroled out into. If you open the line of communication, and see, Dr. Haney, that's all I was trying to do. All I wanted to do was open a line of communication so that you can know about my ministry and how my ministry functions, and how that we could work together to ensure the success of the parolee, rather than them going back into the system, costing the state $50-some a day, whereas they can be on parole costing the state about $2.16 or something a day, according to their numbers.
Is that the way it works, that if they're on parole, it costs...
It's less. It's less.
And if you can keep them out of jail at $2 a day, it's better than keeping them in jail at $50 a day.
Absolutely. And see, I'm just glancing over their information that I pulled up on the internet. You know, you can go to Department of Probation and Parole, and you can pull up the annual report and stuff like that and get all that information. But you know, the thing is, it's less costly to supervise them on parole. But if you're opening the line of communication, and you got all kind of halfway houses around here that people are paroling out into, but if the parole officers are not in contact with the houses, see, because the thing is, Dr. Haney, they're the parole officer. They see the parolee maybe once a month. Some of them see them once a week. I see them every day. When they're in my program, I would see them every day. So I know more about this.
You could have some kind of more influence on them too.
Absolutely.
By them simply being within that structure.
And of course, with the people knowing that I'm in contact on a regular basis with their parole officer and with that system that they have subscribed to, then of course they're gonna walk a much narrower line. But if you just let somebody out and say, okay, we don't think this guy's right because he said he's got a fine for you if you don't come in. If you come in after the hours of curfew, then, you know, we're just going to dump him.
Okay, the last minute that we have here, what would you see as a solution to this whole issue of supervision and et cetera? Would it be more people, or what? I mean, what? You know, what could possibly be done?
Well, of course, the parole officer would probably say, you know, well, we need more people because our caseload, we're overloaded, and they probably are overloaded. But at the same time, if those people who are overloaded will communicate with the other people, they have another arm, they have an extension of themselves. All they have to do is make use of it. All they have to do is communicate, you know, instead of sitting down there and they got this bad taste in their mouth about the halfway houses, because some of the halfway houses, how they conduct business, some of them out here just for money. That's what they for. But then you got legitimate ones out here that really want to help people. And if you open a line of communication between the agencies, and that's all I was trying to do, even though I said, Mr. Tulloch, I agree with the fine system and all that stuff, but I said the other issue, it yet remains, and we need to put together a meeting and sit down and talk.
Very good. Of course, Reverend Walker, you know what time it is.
Yes.
Of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.